He's known as the biggest YouTuber in poker history. WolfGang Poker boasts over 1.5 million subscribers, but how good is he really at poker? This is a series I'm continuing. A lot of people have been asking for two people in particular, Rampage and Mariano. I don't really know anything about their games. I've seen clips every now and again, but today we're going to be looking at WolfGang Poker. I've only seen his shorts. I have no idea how good this guy is. Absolutely zero clue. And it's pretty important, in my opinion, to get a good grasp of where people are at in their game, because you guys, especially most of you, aren't going to be professional poker players. I know my demographics. You're not going to know. You're just going to see people that are playing high stakes. It's like me trying to watch two grandmasters and trying to figure out who's better. So I'm here to break that down for you, and let's see exactly what's going on with this beautiful human being, WolfGang.
But first,
Yo, quick announcements. I'm hosting my first ever premiere exclusive meetup game. And there's going to be one in a local casino in London. And there's also going to be an online one, because I know a lot of you are not going to be able to make it into London. So if you check the link in the description of this video, then you can apply for it. I'm not going to give out the location, because I don't want to flood the casino. But it's going to be extremely cool. And there's going to be free food and drinks and entertainment, and the coolest people I know are helping me build it. Very excited about it. Come check it out if you're interested. There's a little form so we can get to know a little bit about what stakes you're into and where you want to play and things like this, which kind of games you want to play. And let me know. I'm excited for it. I hope you can feel it. Enjoy the rest of the video, beautiful people. Peace.
We're continuing the trend with some crazy high-stakes poker in Las Vegas. Today we're at the Aria playing 25, 50, 100 and getting into some of the biggest pots of my life. We get into two $30,000 all-in pots tonight and plenty of other massive pots as well. Getting right into the first hand, we look down at my favorite hand, pocket sevens, and Chino Ream is in the $100 straddle.
Damn, Chino's still around. Well, I've got a few Chino stories by proxy. Okay.
We get $400 to go a standard 4x open. I expect people to be calling their straddles and blinds pretty liberally here, so I decided to go 400 instead of the normal 300. Bruno in the...
Wouldn't recommend doing it. It's a nuanced thing, but generally, if you're going to have different opening sizes pre, which I would advise if you're playing live, it's a very subtle nuance that you can add to your game. A lot of limping, a lot of min raising, a lot of 4xing. Pocket sevens, you generally want to go a little bit smaller, because if something like this happens and you get 3-bet, you want him, you know, if you've made it 250, he's now 3-betting to 1k or 1100 or something like that instead of 1400. You then have a larger SPR, stack to pot ratio, slow that down if you need to, meaning there's less in the middle for how much you have behind, and when you hit your set, you got better implied odds. It's a little nuance thing.
Small blind comes in for a 3-bet and decides to make it $1,400. Chino ends up folding and the action's back over to me. I obviously defend with my favorite hand. It's just not a hand I'm ever going to be folding to a 3-bet.
Little warning sign there. Don't know if he's just saying stuff because he's voiceovering or he's just making a joke, but there's many times you want to fold sevens to a 3-bet.
So I put in the call and we flop ourselves second pair on a 9-4 deuce rainbow board. Bruno bets out here very small. I'd expect him to do that on this very dry board. $800 is the price for me to call, which I do with my second pair. I'm still beating
Standard is, the standard does.
all of his ace, king, and queen high type of hands. So when I put in the call and the turn comes the 3 of diamonds, really shouldn't change too much unless he has a hand like 5-6 suited, or of course ace 5 suited makes a lot of...
Interesting, if he bets here, you actually almost want to have an ace high hand. Than have pocket sevens. There's just so many better hands than sevens. But now he's checked. This is a pretty simple spot in exploit poker, assuming the guy's not fantastic at poker. Everyone here is going to have a couple of hands in their range, and that's almost it. You know, they're going to have some ace king, ace queen, and then they're just going to have some queen jack, king queen, and jack 10, and that's just like their range. A lot of people aren't going to be savvy enough to be able to like check. Maybe they manage to check aces, maybe ace king of diamonds, but pretty much every other overpair they often just blast off here.
Sense. When he checks, the action's on me, and I decide to take some of my showdown value here and not bloat the size of the pot. I decide to check behind.
Not a bad decision, and it really does depend on your opponent. If he is capable of making these checks at like pocket tens on the turn, then for sure you can check this behind. But the problem is, if they have ace king, pause the video and figure out how many outs they have. That's right, they got 10. And if they got 10 outs, they got roughly 20% equity. You can just double it for the river and double it again for the turn. It's a rough way to do it. And you can charge those hands some money on the turn. You can bet like 1,400 and they're still going to call. So in the stakes that you guys are playing, you can definitely just start putting people on ace high kind of hands in these spots and just start charging.
Here and see what he does on the worst river card, the Queen of Diamonds. Now,
Not even close to the worst river card, but all right, carry on.
all of his diamond flush draws are complete. He has a flush. Additionally, hands like Queen Jack, King.
I'm starting to get some fishy vibes here, and I mean that in both senses of the word fishy. This voiceover isn't particularly, like, you guys have got to understand. I've been playing poker for 11 years now. I know what a professional poker player sounds like when they're talking poker. This ain't sounding... So he hasn't made any bad decisions yet, so I don't want to jump the gun on the communication stuff, but this is...
King, Queen, and Ace Queen all have me beat. So when he bets out large here into the $4,600 pot, I'm put into a tough spot. There's 8,100 now in the middle after his 35.
To me, this stinks like a bluff. It stinks like a bluff that he's trying to like fold us out of the types of hand that we have, pocket fives, ace four, things like this. So exploit wise, I'm just calling. Like, here's the thing. Imagine he has got king queen and he's trying to get a call from a 4 or a pocket fives or pocket sevens. Would he go huge, or would he maybe size down a little bit?
Catcher with the 7 of diamonds is very important to note because I do block some flushes like...
This is what GTO does to kids' brains, and it's so sad. You get TikTok brain, you get GTO brain. What flushes are you blocking with the 7 of diamonds, dude? Sorry, I don't mean to be so aggressive. I'm sure he's lovely. If he had the 7-8 of diamonds, if he had the 7-6 of diamonds, he would have bet the turn. The 7 of diamonds is about as irrelevant as it gets. And this is what happens when people are looking at these solver solutions. They're like, well, the solver calls the 7 of diamonds and folds without the 7 of diamonds. Like, it's such a tiny, tiny thing. And maybe in solver land, it makes some sense to make that decision. But you're not playing a solver, you're playing Bruno. And you have much more information at hand than the 7 of diamonds. It changes the mathematical solution of it so minusculely. It's so tiny. Just don't think about it. Think about their range and think about what you're going to do about it. I'm going to scream this until the end of my life. What is their range? What are you going to do about it? 7 diamonds can wait.
7-8 suited, 7-6 suited, stuff like that. But ultimately, I decide that Bruno is not going to be betting here without a better hand. And ultimately, I do, in fact, fold my favorite hand. So kind of painful to do so, especially having the 7 of diamonds. But you guys can let me know down in the comments. I think that's a pretty decent fold. All right, moving right along, the $100 straddle is not out in this hand. There's an open to 200. I'm going to come in for a 3-bet, and I decide to get zesty here for 575. Not really sure why I didn't just toss out 6 black chips and be done with it, but 575, putting a little bit...
I like the use of the word zesty. That's nice. Oh, I'll rate that 7's hand. Man, it's hard to say. I rated it at 6.5 out of 10, but the thought process was like a 2.
Of course, we're going to get 4-bet here from Bruno. He wants to get some more chips from me.
I think with this ace of spot, you just jam. I assume that we don't have like the loosest image in the world. Maybe he does. If he does, then you just call. If there's a chance that this guy's bluffing decent frequency, then you just call. But I imagine with this action, he's just got a value hand, so you just shove. The way you decide whether to flat aces or not is if they can be bluffing a decent amount when they're 3-betting and 4-betting, then you often just do. It really depends on the spot, especially like if we call, there's going to be like 4,000, 3,500 in the middle, something like that. We'll only have 6K behind, something like that. So it's not hard to get all in if they have kings or queens. But if they're not bluffing, you might as well just shove, because if they have ace king, they're going to call. And if they have ace king and the flop comes like low and you're just slow played, you often don't stack them.
When I pick up pocket aces, Bruno, it's going to be hard for you to get a lot of chips. I decide not to 5-bet. That would be very, very strong. I decide just to call. Out of position is not great, but we see ourselves to a decent flop, which comes queen, 3, deuce, rainbow. 3,500 in the middle, and the action goes check, bet, call. I decide to call here instead of going for a raise. Just putting in the 1K here seems like the right move, and we're off the turn, which comes the Jack of Clubs. All in all, not the best card in the deck. Jacks will be in his range a good portion of the time. I don't really think Queen Jack suited or offsuit is going to be in his wheelhouse here when he comes in for a cold 4-bet. But you never know. This is a fun game here. Table 1 at the Aria. Invite only, and even though I
When
don't...
he checks back, he can still have kings and ace queen. Pretty consistently. He can also have a jack. He can also have ace king. Because our range looks real strong at this point, like really strong. I think you're meant to just check on the river. I don't think that we're going to be able to represent a bluff here. Like, what are our bluffs going to be? Like, we're going to have to start turning tens into a bluff, you know? Or like ace king into a bluff. Like, we're going to have to get creative to find some bluffs here.
Don't know Bruno. He was obviously invited for a reason, and surprisingly the action goes check, check. The river card comes an inconsequential
Not surprising at all, by the way.
5 of diamonds. It's 5,500 in the middle and a little bit left in my stack. So weird spot here where the action check through on the turn. There's 5,500. I have 4,100, so obviously less than the size of the pot. I want to get value here versus hands like ace queen, king queen, queen 10, pocket kings, maybe even a ace jack type of hand that thinks I have ace king here and going for a bluff. So if I had any bluffs here, which side note to Bruno, I probably don't have too many, I'm gonna go all in. I want to do that with my bluffs, just like I would with my made hands like pocket aces.
So this is something you run into a lot these days. They're like, if I would do this with my bluffs, I should also do it with my value hands. And it's this idea of balance. You don't need to be balanced. Trust me, this situation is never going to come up again. It doesn't matter if you're doing one thing completely with bluffs and another thing completely with value bets. In fact, I suggest it. Here's the analogy, the rock, paper, scissors analogy. If you're playing a guy that is playing rock 80% of the time, just fucking rock, just fucking rock, just fucking rock, and you know he's never gonna, he's been doing it for 60 years, he's just loved playing rock. Every now and again he'll throw in something else just to be cool. You don't balance your strategy. You play paper, 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 paper. And that's how that plays out in game theory in poker. I know people talk about GTO in poker being a very specific thing. Actual GTO is exploitative poker. That's what GTO is. The game theory optimal, when somebody is exploitable and exploitative, the game theory optimal is to be a different type of exploitative. And that's how it plays. That's how it plays out in the game theory trees. If you were to be able to put that into a solver, which you can't because human tendencies are so unpredictable and so unbalanced. Don't do this. Like it sounds like I'm nitpicking, but it is one of the what I've seen so many poker players that ruin their brains, ruin their games, when all they're trying to do is find this like perfect balance solution. I hear so many of the big YouTubers and streamers say it. If I'm doing this with my bluffs, I've got to be doing it with my value bets. It's so destructive. Don't do it. Don't do it, especially when you're playing at the stakes you guys are playing.
I don't think this is a punt here, because even though he's going to show up with queens and jacks, occasionally maybe ace 4 of clubs, I also think I'm going to get called a lot by hands that I have to beat. So when I rip it all in, we get snap called, which is not great news. And when he turns over the jiggities, pocket jacks here. I don't like this guy very much. I've played 2 hands here at table 1 at the Aria, both against Bruno.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do. You're getting cooler there one way or the other. But I think shove pre probably makes a little bit more sense if he's a little bit tighter at these stakes.
It's safe to say that he has my number. Losing your stack is never great news, but more so when you're taking a shot in a pretty big game here, $25.50 with the $100 straddle. I was in for 7,000, obviously lost all of that in 2 hands so pretty quickly. I rebuy for 6,000 more real American dollars, and now I pick up another premium pocket kings. Hopefully they don't do me as dirty.
So he's playing a 50-100 essentially. He's in for 6K. We got 60 big blinds. Wouldn't recommend doing it. Hard to study for 60 bigs. Especially if you've been playing online. Probably playing, yeah, it just sounds like he's playing a lot higher stakes than normal. Nothing wrong with it. Love a shot. Love a little shot take.
As their counterpart, pocket aces. It's a raise from Chino Ream. If you guys don't know who he is, well, just look him up on Hendon Mob. Safe to say he's a pretty good player. He makes it 300. I come in for a 3-bet to 1350, and he immediately shows me how good he is, because after counting out my stack, he decides to fold his hand. So no action here with the Cowboy.
I don't know if you should put that in a blog, but cool. You're the biggest YouTuber creator. I ain't got nothing to say.
King Queen of Hearts is here, and I make it $250 to go. There's a player to my left who puts in the call, and Chino is tired of folding. Now he jams it in for $7,700. Why is he jamming it in for $7,700 over a $250 in a call? Well, we are playing the stand-up game to the tune of $300 a pop. So if you are the last person to win a hand at this table, you're gonna owe out a pretty penny. He makes it $7,700 to go, and Randy 3Coin, the legend, he needs no introduction, puts in the cold call for $7,700. Actions on me. I only have $3,875 left of my 6K rebuy. So
What?
of course, it's going into the middle here with my knit button still in front of me.
I'm so confused. What's happening? Is he trolling? What?
Nobody shows their cards. We're going off to a flop 3 ways, which comes pretty good for my hand, Queen, Deuce, Deuce. Of course, I have no idea if they have a hand like Pocket Kings or Aces or even Ace, Queen, suited or unsuited. But flopping top pair is pretty great. The turn comes at 8 of diamonds, followed by the 4 of diamonds. Randy turns over Ace, Jack, offsuit, had me smoked pre-flop. Until I flop that queen, I turn over my cards, and you can see Chino mucks his cards, puts his face in his hands. That is a great sign for us. A 20K pot is coming over my way. Well, actually a little bit less because we only shoved for around $4,000. So still a 12K pot coming over our way. And all it took for us to finally win a hand in this session is for us
Punt. Punt out of 10. I'm giving that a good punt out of 10, but congratulations on the $12,000 pot.
to get our money in bad in a high leverage spot like the knit game. Okay, I raised to 250 now. A call from Chino. Actions on me. I have Ace, Jack of diamonds. A pretty
Shout out to, is that, I want to say sashimi?
great spot to come in for a squeeze, and I make it $1,200 to go. Both players put in the call. They want some of these WolfGang dollars, and the flop comes pretty hard for them to get any more money from me. Ace, King, Jack with 2 hearts.
Yeah, he speaks like a like it's actually pretty easy to get more money out of you when you got top and bottom in these kind of spots. It's like not hard for them to have a better hand, especially by the river.
So we have top and bottom pair.
Again, it's not like he's saying really bad stuff. It's just there's something in my head that's just like, something like it's a little bit uncanny. Something's just a little bit off. You just don't hear professional poker players that are at a certain level, certain caliber, make these kinds of comments.
$3,700 pot, and the actions on me. I fire out for $1,000, and only Chino puts in the call. On the 7
Good sizing on the flop though.
of hearts turn, I have a decision between betting and checking. Having top and bottom pair is a good hand, but at the same time, it's very vulnerable. Chino could easily have a hand that contains the ace or queen of hearts. I don't want him to get there without me firing out a bet for $2,100. And he makes a pretty quick fold. For some reason, he wants to see the river, which comes a 7 of diamonds.
Yeah, not bad, not bad. I think it's a good hand over. I think we can rate this an 8.
And he screams in displeasure because he had a 7 in his hand. He would have river tripped, so
He had a 7 in his hand? What? Guys, what kind of 7 can you have here? He called the flop after calling it open and a 3-bet pre. What? And they folded to... What?
a great bet by me there on the turn. Seemed like a pretty standard spot to do it, but if I ever got tricky and found a check, well, this $7,800 pot is going over to Chino. All right, if you guys have been wondering where Randy 3Coin has been in this video,
You guys are wondering if you should be a professional poker player. If you're any good at thinking and range analysis and all of these things, and by the way, if you can't do range analysis, come check out eliteuniversity.com. We teach it all the time. If you're any good at it, I mean, people suck at poker. It's hard to really understand, but if you look at how much these guys are making and then compare that to any other field, you find a lawyer that's making a couple of $100K a year or $500K a year. They are very good. They've trained for a decade and a half or whatever. They've got top of Harvard or whatever it is. Poker players suck at poker. Like, we as a demographic, we're lazy, we don't work very much, we're just like drinking all the time. Guarantee most of these people around the table, they gamble on like blackjack and roulette. Once I played in Vegas, and it was such a funny thing, and I spoke to the table, it was like a 40-80 game or something like that, and I was like, just out of interest, guys, who here plays like pit games like blackjack and roulette? Literally every single one of them put their hand up. every single one of them. I was the only person that didn't. In England, there's not a thing. If somebody does it, that's like, is he okay? Should we check on him? Like, and in Vegas, it was just like everyone did it. And my point is, if you want to be a professional poker player, it's probably a good time for it. Poker's booming and people suck.
Since you last saw him, well, here is the hand for you. There's a straddle to 100, a raise from Randy, and I 3-bet him to 900 with the beautiful ace-king of diamonds. Player to my left puts in the call, and Randy 4-bets now to $2,300. All right, this could be a good candidate to put in the 5-bet, or we could smooth call and expect the player to my left to call as well. By 5-bet here, well, alarm bells are
5-bet would be too much, dude. Way too much. I mean, unless this guy is bananas. We did see the ace jack earlier, but usually 4-bets in these positions are pretty value heavy. Like we're talking queens plus ace king only.
Alarm bells are going to go off for both opponents, but Randy 4-betting is already a very strong play. So are we trying to play for stacks here? I have 14,000 in my stack. Are we just going to play a monster pot here? Well, let's see if we can hit the flop a little bit first. I don't want to just flip for $30,000 against Randy, who would easily put it in with a hand like pocket fives. I'd much prefer to have a hand like tens or jacks. That way I know I'm smoking him a good portion of the time when he does in fact have those pocket pairs. So in light of not wanting to flip for 30 grand, basically a brand new car in this economy, I decided to put in the call, and the player to my left, Shawn, finds the call as well. We're going 3 ways to the flop, which comes pretty good for me to get my money in. 6-4-3 with 2 diamonds.
It's kind of the dream.
We have the nut flush draw, and of course we have 2 overcards. Loving life here. There's 7,000 in the middle. I look over at Randy. He checks his cards once again. What does that mean? Well, I think he likes his hand, and especially so now that he fires out for 6,000.
All right. He's got kings. We're all in. Good luck.
Into the $7,000 pot. Of course, it's into 2 players, so I have to be cognizant that Randy probably has a decent hand at this point. I'm blocking aces and kings, so he could have a set. He could have queens, jacks, 10.
Could have a... What? What is happening today? Could have a set? What do you mean? I must have misheard that.
I'm blocking aces and kings, so he could have a set. He could have queens, jacks, 10.
WolfGang, what are you saying? He 4-bet pre, and he's like, blockers are so powerful. It is now more likely that he has pocket sixes than he has aces or kings, despite there being an equal amount of blockers of sixes, fours, threes, and aces and kings, because there's a 6 on the flop and we only have 1 ace in our hand. But he's 4-bet under the gun versus, or like +1 versus 2 late position, like a 3-bet and a cold call. What do you mean he could have... Dude.
Could have queens, jacks, 10s. Well, I count out my stack and I only have around 12.5K. I say only because obviously that's a ton of money, but given the fact that it's only double Randy's bet, I think it's appropriate to get all the money in the middle here. If he has a hand like king, queen, or king 10, well, I don't think he can fold for an additional $6,000, so I jam it all in. Shawn folds his cards in disgust, and Randy snaps me off with the 3-coin hand, pocket threes, the crabs.
What? I take everything. What? I take it back. Never in a million years does anybody ever have a set hit. The fact that he has a set and that he says maybe he's got a set, he must have seen the footage beforehand and then just be like, oh, I put this in his range just to... Fair enough. I guess I was wrong somehow.
Bottom set, and we are in a flip situation here in a 30.
Not a flip.
Kind of what I was trying to avoid, but when I see that kind of flop with my exact hand, well, the money just has to go in. $32,000. Randy asked me how many times I want to run it. I've kind of made a point.
If he's 4-betting that, we shove pre for sure. It's not even close.
To myself in the next few months that I want to run things one time. It's way better for the vlog, less anticlimactic when we end up chopping a large...
That's YouTube money talking. Respect that.
You guys want to see some pain or all the glory? The turn comes a red card, but it's the 8 of hearts, and the river card, another red card, but not the one we wanted to see, the deuce of hearts. I don't believe
We're still about 100,000 up.
I pick up 7 deuce of hearts here. There's a straddle and a raise, and of course I'm coming in for a 3-bet to $900. There's a call and a 4-bet, and of course I have to fold 7 deuce of hearts, but I just put this in here to show you guys that even though I'm stuck $13,000 in this game, I'm still getting after it with these mediocre
I like that. I respect that. I'll give that a 9 out of 10 for respect.
hands. Of course the 7 deuce game was on, and I love that, so I'm
Oh, I take it back. The 7 deuce game was on.
never going to be folding.
I mean,
King 5 of clubs seems like a slight
still some respect.
upgrade. I make it $300 to go, and immediately we get free bet to 900. And when Chino Ream calls the 900 from across the table, I decide to put in the additional 600.
These spots are actually pretty okay to 4-bet bluff these days because these cold calls are less pocket jacks and pocket tens heavy than they used to be. It literally only used to be like 9s, 10s, and jacks when somebody call here. But now you see people just doing like ace 10 suited and whatever else. So you can actually use this as a pretty good 4-bet spot knowing that Chino's going to be capped here. So I'd probably actually just make this like 3,000 to go, like big chunky 4-bet, knowing that if this guy doesn't have a hand that he can go with, that he has to follow like jack 10 suited to that size, given the stack sizes.
As well.
Big lane, 13-5. Shawn, you don't have a button? Or 4 people have a button?
I'll throw all this just to fold, man.
Alright, fine, dude. I was gonna fold, but then you just knocked me into making that. Oh, goddammit.
With nearly 2,900 in the middle, a 10-3 deuce rainbow board is what we're going to be playing with here. The action checks over to Shawn.
In my head in this spot, when I see this board, I'm like, I think I can win this pot, like pretty often. That's the kind of mentality you really want to be having when you're crushing certain stakes. Is like, if you're red line, and that's how much you win without showdown. So basically, how much you can bluff, essentially. If you're in that mindset, that's when you know either you're going to be punting huge or winning huge. I see this part. I'm like, yeah, we can probably. It's hard to have. It's hard unless this guy's got an overpair, and now he's checked. It's a lot easier. But even if you see bet, like, there's a good chance he's still going to just have overcards that have missed.
Checks behind, bringing in the Queen of Clubs on the turn, a pretty interesting card. Of course, I pick up the King High flush draw, so when the action checks over to Shawn once again, and he fires out for $1,500.
So we check the turn. Don't know about that. Would probably bet the turn. Yeah. You gotta just make sure that if he's got ace jack, ace king, that we win the hand somehow. But it's really hard to win the hand now. We have to like check raise versus them. So I think you just bet the turn. I think you missed a bet there.
And Chino folds his cards. I think I have 2 options here. I could either call and try to realize my equity, or I could check raise here and try to put all of his pocket pairs, ace 10, jack 10 type of hands in a tough spot. I think in the long run, check raising here makes the most amount of
Ace 10 and jack 10, you check the flop. What's the...
I don't have a made hand. If I have a flush draw plus a pair, I think calling makes more sense.
I'm gonna stop ripping into his analysis right now because it feels a little bit mean at this point. But he's just saying stuff that doesn't really ring true to reality.
That's because if the action goes check on the river on a brick, we could win at showdown. So of course I choose the worst of the 2 options and just put in the call. But we might have got bailed out on the King of Diamonds river.
Yeah, it's just a very scared style of poker here. Like, you have to make sure that on the turn, if he's got ace king, ace jack, or some other random type of bluff, you just have to make sure that you win the hand. Like, if he's just got ace 7 offsuit, we lose the hand. If he's just going bananas with ace 9 of hearts, we lose the hand. So unless we hit the river, so yeah, you gotta find a way to be aggressive, whether it's check raise turn or bet turn. And this is why you meant to bet the turn, so you don't have to check raise and get stacks. So kind of awkward.
It's not a club like we wanted to see, but I also forgot that I could spike a top pair on the river. There's 5,800 in the middle, and now in case Shawn has a queen or a 10, I want to bet out small here and try to get value. I think there's a high chance he checks behind here when an overcard comes on the river. So I announce 1555. But because I'm playing 2550, it's only going to be 1550. And before I could even put my chips in the middle, Shawn snap calls me. I turn over the King 5 and he looks disgusted. How did I get there? Well, Shawn, I had the King High flush draw. And finally, we are getting some momentum. I was stuck $13,000, but this is some...
I'm rating his handed too. I'm sorry, WolfGang. I'm sorry. I'm sure you're a fantastic human being. I really love the shorts you create. You're paving the way for the future of poker content creators, but yeah,
All right, funny hand developing here. I make it $300, and Shawn and Bruno both put in the call. The flop comes king, king, jack, bang. We flop 3 of a kind, and I bet out small here for $200. The logic is I have trips, so I want to get some value, but I don't really think players have that much going on this board.
All right, I feel like a disappointed coach right now, but again, we look at the board. What are their ranges? What are we going to do about it? They can have a king, they can have a jack, they can have a straight draw, they can have a flush draw, they can have underpairs. These are the relevant hands that we need to be paying attention to when we're deciding the size that we c-bet. We're obviously c-betting. So, sorry, not obviously, but pretty easy c-bet. So you ask yourself, okay, how much would a flush draw call? Well, a decent amount. How much would a jack call? A decent amount. How much would ace, queen, ace, 10 call? Not that much. You know, how much would pocket nines call? Really not that much. So which parts of the range do you want to be targeting? Again, if you want to learn this, come to eliteuniversity.com. It's free to join. So you can just decide based on all of these things which parts of the range you want to be targeting. And I would just size up. I'd just be like, okay, what's a jack gonna call? And if I do that, a flush draw will call, queen 10 will call, ace queen and ace 10 might call, probably will. We're gonna get a decent sized pot by the river. So yeah, I'd just go, if there's 1200 in the middle, I'd just bet like 700.
I have the 10 of clubs in my hand, so I block hands like queen 10. There are some flush draws available, but other than that, I'm either way ahead or way behind versus a king or king jack, of course. Only Bruno puts in the call, and the turn comes the 3 of clubs. I bet out small.
Yeah, sorry, dude, this is not cool. It's not okay. Like, imagine he's just sitting there with like ace 9 of diamonds. So he's like, oh, free river, nice. I'll take my 2 free cards, thank you. If you're sitting there with a jack, you're losing value. I'm sorry, dude.
All again here, trying to just get a little bit of.
Bet your value hands big is pretty much what I'm trying to say. You can find small ways to bluff, cute small ways to bluff in a lot of spots, but you generally just want to bet your value hand, your very good value hands very big. People don't fold in most spots.
Versus hands like pocket 9s, pocket 8s, jack 10, queen jack, and Bruno calls once again. When the river card comes a board pairing 3 of diamonds and now have a full house, kings full of 3s, and I decide to get tricky and check.
I kind of like the check, actually. I feel like the check's actually pretty sexy. He's going to be bluffing queen 10. He might be bluffing ace 10 even, because it really feels like we have jack right now, like pocket queens. And he might even value bet a flush, and then we get to go for like a min raise on the river or something.
A flush,
I like
go for a small bet here, and I could check raise him. If he has a jack, well, he's probably not calling a bet anyways, so.
I really like that. Okay, we're back. You know, WolfGang, we're back. I respect that.
I might as well give him some rope and try to bet it himself. And Bruno fires out of here for around 2/3 the size of the pot for $1,100. Having a full house, I'm only losing to king jack and pocket 3s. The last bet was $1,100, and I don't think Bruno is going to call much more than that. In fact, I don't really think he's going to call this raise too often in general. So I go super small, and Sashimi calls it perfectly. It's a min raise.
Hey, you had the same thought as me. Okay, we're back. We're back, WolfGang. Great river play. Flop and 10 were awful. Great river play.
The $2,200.
I think I love you, Sashimi, just so you know.
Bruno looks disgusted. A min raise is usually never a bluff. It's such a good price, though. He only has to call $1,100 to win like $6,500. So he only has to be good here a small portion of the time. He probably has a jack if he's thinking about it this much. Ultimately, he decides the price is right.
Very good editing, by the way. I don't know if he edits his own videos. I mean, that's just fantastic editing.
Wait, he's Bob Barker.
Editor, if you're watching this, do something cool like that right now.
Puts in the call. I turn over the king 10, and I make the maximum here when he folds his cards face down.
He mucks his cards. He doesn't fold his cards, but fantastic river play. Rating pre-flop was fine. Flop was okay. Turn was awful. River was perfect. So, I mean, what do you call that? Like a 7.6 out of 10, I'll call it. Yeah, 7.6 out of 10. Nice hand, WolfGang. Really had me in the first half, though.
So back-to-back nice-sized pots coming over my way. I now have 22,000 in my stack. Remember, I'm in for 28,000, so I'm only stuck 6K at this point, and I make it $300 to go with 8-9 of diamonds and immediately get 3-bet by player to my left, Shawn. He makes it 1K to go. Action's back over to me. I'm on a hot streak here. I'm trying to go 3 for 3, so I put in the call and we flop ourselves Jin on a 9-9-6 board. Bang, we flop trips once again.
Great editing as well. I rate that editing like a 9 out of 10. That was nice.
Back-to-back hands, let's go. This one's a little bit more disguised.
So interesting spot here. There's pretty much one thing that I would do to determine whether I check raise here or whether I slow play, and that is always based on my perceived image. And this is like some high level stuff, but it's really worth, like, intuitively people get this anyway. So it's not like at the highest level thing, but it's just like, you know what your image is, but like everyone is going to have a different perceived image of you around the table. This guy might think this of you, this guy might think this of you, and you kind of just need to intuitively feel that. Psychologically, are they on this level, they're on this level, they're on this level. I've spent my entire career having a crazy wild aggressive image. So I tend to just check raise it, knowing that somebody's going to float, somebody's going to 3-bet the flop, somebody's just going to play back against me, and I'm just going to stack them if they have an overpair. If I had a tight image when I check raise here, they're going to end up folding the turn with like kings, you know? So it's like, it really does depend on who you are and how you're perceived.
I check it over to Shawn and he fires out for $1,000. I'm hoping and praying he has a hand like tens, jacks, queens, kings, even aces would be a miracle here. This is a session-saving hand if somehow we can get more money in the middle. I don't want to set off any alarm bells. I'm just going to call here like I would with hand.
I think given his image is probably quite tight, I think this is a wise play.
Hands like pocket sevens, pocket fives. So I find that
the other good thing is if you've got a tight image, they're going to bluff you more. Like they might think, oh, he's got pocket eights, he's got pocket tens, I can get him off it by the river.
Call here, the pot has ballooned up to 4,300 and the Queen of Hearts peels off on the turn. Great. It's a pretty good card because now hands like King Queen, Ace Queen have caught up here and can confidently go for a value bet. So sure enough, Shawn fires out for $3,500.
It's also a great bluff card if you are bluffing as the other guy. If he's just got ace jack or something and you see the queen, you're like, I'm gonna get him off tens. So what you want to do here is you want to tank for like a million years, make it look like you've got pocket eights, because if you snap call, pocket eights doesn't snap call. Pocket eights would have a really tough spot. So if you want him to continue bluffing, you have to be able to represent the hands that are weak. So if you've, just put yourself in the mind of somebody that's got a hand that he would try and bluff you off, and if that didn't make sense, slow down. And tank. These are the timing tells or reverse timing tells you really need to understand if you're going to be a high level explosive player. By the way, I did a live tell masterclass. I consider myself to be the best in the world at live tells. There's a few other contenders, Phil Ivey, fucking Davide Katai, amazing people. None of them doing live tell masterclasses, and I've been holding on to this information, only teaching at very specific retreats, and I'm finally putting it out into a masterclass. It's really fantastic, and there's a editor put the discount code here.
Utilizing some of those purple $500 chips and of course that beautiful banana colored 1K chip, $3,500 in the middle, and at this point I'm pretty sure this pot is mine. So the decision is here. I have a lot of money behind. I have Shawn covered. I want to get more money in the middle. If I just call here, the river could be a scare card. I check it over to Shawn and he checks behind. We definitely don't want to see that, so I decided to check raise him small here to 7,500. It's just a
This could be a really good play. This looked like it. My alarm bells are going off that he probably just has a boat here, or he probably just has a 9 here, and you can really just fold aces on the turn if you're any good. But given that this guy might not know that, I thought it was the Bruno guy at first, but I just looked here and it's some older gentleman. There's a thing that older gentlemen tend to get a little bit too married to their overpairs. And it's a stereotype for a reason, and so this is actually probably a very good raise.
A hair over a min click to 7,000. What this allows him to do is probably not fold. He's either going to call here or shove his entire stack in the middle. If he has top pair, I think it's pretty hard for him to get away. So he does in fact jam it all in for around $15,000, and of course I snap him off here with 3 of a kind. When the cards hit their backs, we see that Shawn has ace queen offsuit, so in pretty
nice hand, WolfGang. We'll wait for the river, but nice hand.
Rough shape here with 2 pair queens and nines. He's gonna have to hit a miracle card on the river in order to take this one away from me.
Yeah, I mean, I just rate this a very, very high amount out of 10. The thought process wasn't obviously perfect, but just a very, very good hand overall. Knew his opponent, knew he wasn't going to fold top pair. So yeah, we'll give this a 9 out of 10. Good job, Wolfgang. Really saving it in the second half of this video.
There's $35,000 in the middle. In the river comes a brick. It's the ace of hearts. He improves to a better 2 pair.
It's not. I hate to be panicky. It's not. Something to call it a brick.
We're now pick up 7 deuce of clubs. You saw earlier that I was going for it with 7 deuce suited when I was stuck money. So of course we have to go for it.
Interesting note here: if the 7 deuce game's on and this guy's 3-betting to 700, he's not going to be doing this for 7 deuce because people want more fold equity when they have 7 deuce, and you're not going to get much fold equity here. So when he does 3-bet really big, he's probably going to be very 7 deuce heavy in comparison to other people, because a lot of his stronger hands are going to be going into this size range. Very hard to balance well, and at this stakes, he's not going to be a kind of player that can. So just really worth paying attention to, especially when 7 deuce on the 3-bet sizes people use.
And we're up money. There's a raise and a 3-bet in front of us.
If you want to kind of make it simple, just use 7 deuce and ace king, similar sizes at first, because no one's going to know that you're doing that. But 7 deuce and ace king both kind of want to get a lot of chips in the middle / get folds. And if somebody's raised to 300 and you make it 1500, they don't know if you have 7 deuce or ace king, or you could, in their minds, still have aces, kings, queens. And then if you have aces, kings, and queens, at first you have to start balancing because it'll get very obvious later on. But then you can just 3-bet to like from 300 to like 1K or 1.1K or something.
So kind of an interesting situation here. Scary to say the least. I need to come in for a 4-bet, but I don't need to go super large because my 4-betting range is pretty much a lot of premiums and then of course 7 deuce. So when I make it small here,
Yeah, you can also fold 7 deuce here and it's completely fine by the way. You don't need to go for it every single time.
the razor and the 3.
If he'd 3-bet to a normal size, I would say fold. But given that he's 3-bet small, he probably just has something like king queen suited, ace queen or something like that.
3-better fold to basically just a hair over a min raise. And that means we are taking down all of that money plus $300 per person.
Nice hand, my friend. Nice hand.
But in between that hand and this hand, a bunch of nonsense happened. Just a bunch of raising, 3-betting, calling bets, calling some flop stuff. Nothing super interesting, but we've bled a few $1,000. So we find ourselves here with 27K in our stack. And I have ace king offsuit. I make it $300 to go, and we're going to get 2 customers here until the player on my right puts in the call as well. So 4 ways to the flop here on an ace queen queen board, and I'm either way ahead or way behind with
Always check.
$1,300 in the middle. I decide to check. The action checks through, bringing in the 4 of spades.
The nice thing about checking here is that when this guy then checks the turn, which he's very often going to do, we just have the best hand pretty much always, because a queen is so incentivized to bet the flop or bet the turn in this guy's shoes, because they just get value from an ace. So checking here and seeing clean turn, you have such an easy hand to play after. So it's like, yeah, we just have, unless somebody's turned a boat, we just have the best hand here, and we just get to decide how much to charge a worse ace.
On the turn, Jimmy across the table, who lives out in Colombia, he puts in a bet of $700. The player to my right calls, and of course I have to call here with 2 pair. Having the king of diamonds is
No, he's losing value. You can bet big on the turn yourself, and if you're gonna check, you kind of have to check raise, unfortunately. And it just looks really strong if you do check raise, but you're just losing so much value here. Maybe you can lead out in the river, but just imagine they've got just like ace jack and ace 5. The river's just gonna go check pretty often anyway. So yeah, you got to find some more value here.
a great kicker. The river card now comes the king of spades, so I didn't really need that card because now it brings in the backdoor spade flush. Really would have preferred to not see a spade on the river, and the action checks over to Jimmy once again.
Great spot to check jam, by the way, if you want to go for a check shove on the river.
Again, is this a bluff? Is this a value bet? He fires out for $1,800.
Feels very much like a value bet. Feels very much like a flush, maybe a slow play queen on the flop. But yeah, if you shove here, he's probably just folding his entire. He'll probably fold pocket fours if you shove, by the way.
And the player to my right folds his cards. I have to think about it here because, of course, I have 2 pair. Is he really value betting a hand that I have beat? So ultimately, I make a very disciplined fold here. It's hard to do so when you have a premium hand, but I was going 4 ways. The likelihood of Jimmy having a queen here is
I think the fact that he's not considering this again says a little bit about the caliber of player that he is. But good folds is better than calling.
pretty high. I fold my cards and he folds his. We don't get to see
Okay, he doesn't fold it, but okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm sorry.
until he realizes I'm filming a vlog and graciously turns over the queen of hearts. So you guys cannot roast me down in the comments for folding a very good hand. Okay, next hand here, ace-5 of hearts is a raise and a call over to me. I think this is a great spot to come in for a 3-bet. I make it $750 to go. Both players are going to put in the call, and the flop comes king 5-3 rainbow. When the action checks to me, I go pretty small here for $600. I'm going to have a
You don't need to 3-bet this, by the way. Like, a lot of people just see ace-5 and they 3-bet. Would actually recommend really not doing it. And if you do, just go bigger so you got more fold equity. But you got a size. They're going to call all their pocket pairs, all their suited connectors because you're so deep. But ace-5 suited just plays really well in a single raise pot, like 4-way, you know, something like that. Because you just get to cooler all of their smaller hearts. Every now and again, you get flush over flush, and you want people to be ridiculously deep stacked when that happens. So yeah, you can just take these suited wheels, the multi-way, especially when you're late position. It's harder to get squeezed, all these things.
$50 to go. Both players are going to put in the call, and the flop comes king 5-3 rainbow. When the action checks to me, I go pretty small here for $600. I'm going to have a lot of suited kings in my range, and I'd want to go small here and just target a lot of his pocket pairs. Maybe if he had a hand like ace-5.
He's saying things that sound like they're poker, but they're not poker. You don't have a lot of suited kings in your range. You have ace-king. That's like the thing that you're representing when you see that here. King-queen. Suited kings, so it's like, maybe they're suited, but it doesn't really matter if they're suited or not.
Would call a bet for sure. Both players put in the call, and the turn comes the 4 of diamonds. When the action checks over to me for a second time, there's of course
Interesting spot. You can actually probably keep bluffing this. This is actually probably a really good spot to bluff. It's going to be hard for somebody to have a set, and they would need specifically 3s or the one combo of 5s left. And 6, 7 suited's probably in there at full frequency because we 3-bet so small. For both players, unfortunately. Maybe only 3 combos for this one because he might fold diamonds on the flop, but this guy is going to have all 4 combos. But other than that, you can probably make king queen fold on the turn if you go chunky enough.
3 players in the hand. I think I can now get hands to fold like pocket 7s, 8s, and 9s. I'm only really going to get called by those straights, maybe some random sets or 2 pair like 5-4 suited, and of course a king. So I think there's merit.
Yeah, here's the thing. You can actually make them fold a king as well.
Going for a bet here. Only Malcolm puts in the call.
I don't like the sizing at all, dude. I don't like it at all. Yeah, it's... I'm not, we'll talk about it.
All the way from down under Australia to play in this exact game. He's probably a pretty good player. He calls me here on the turn, and the pot has ballooned up to $8,400. The river now comes a 7 of clubs, and that really shouldn't change too much. He checks it over to me. I think the bluff is up.
Feels like now if we bluff, we're going to get hero call because he would be thinking, oh, if he's got aces, would he bet big? You probably still just go for it here. Just hope that he hasn't got 6s, something like that. Because 6s might have folded the flop, but that probably, I don't like this. You probably just have to go for it if you got a tie image. I would give up with my image.
Here, I have some showdown value. I beat some of those ace-high hands, so I'm really glad
What?
to know that I didn't go for a bet there because he turns over 6-7 of diamonds, floats me on the flop.
Hey, we got to find out. He did have all 4 combos of 7-6 suited on the flop. I wasn't sure. So yeah, bad hand. Yeah, we'll give that. Oh, I'm sorry, WolfGang. We're gonna give that like a 3 out of 10. That looks like it's the last one. Results.
So all in all, in for 28,000, end up getting out for 21,700.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to have a little tough talk. Here's the thing. He's an incredible content creator, and I've been enjoying his shorts for a while. He's really setting the pace for other content creators, so you have to respect it, give respect to it where respect is due. Unfortunately, he's not a fantastic poker player, and his thought process is all over the place. Yeah, the lingo is all over the place. His plays are all over the place. He's playing high stakes in a spot where he's going to be losing in the game pretty often, I'm pretty sure. Maybe if it's like the wildest, softest game that he can get in because he's a content creator, it's going to be okay. But it's just like he's gonna be having millions of people watching his content, and they're gonna be looking at what he's saying, like, oh, that sounds like poker stuff, because he says things that sounds like poker stuff, but it's not poker stuff. He's just using the words. He's not kind of like stringing together coherent analysis. So it pains me to say it, but I don't know what all the tiers are called. I've already done 3 people, and I'll put them all in tiers now for my my editor. And this is based on how good I think they are to learn poker from. Because you can decide how entertaining somebody is, but you might not be eloquent enough with the game to know who's good at teaching. Hungry Horse is going to be right at the top for the 4 people that I've done so far. If there's anybody else, I know people really want Mariano and Rampage. Let me know who else you want me to do, and if out of those 2 who you'd like to see as well. Really, WolfGang seems like a great guy, like really good energy, like but it's just like you have to kind of call a spade and call a fish. And sorry, WolfGang, you are maybe a little bit of a fish. I'm sure you can afford a lot of really good players to coach you, so good luck on your journey, and congratulations on the success so far. And for the rest of you, beautiful people, I will see you next time. All the best. I'm doing a meetup game. I don't know when this is going out, but the first meetup game is going to be on Saturday, the 14th. In London. So if you guys are around, I'm also doing online meetup games now. And so if you want to do that, there's a link in the description to join both of those things. All the best, beautiful people. Peace.